For the first time in 20 years, Team USA has not one, but two possible chances at the Olympic podium in the individual women's event. Hey everyone, and welcome to my second channel. My name is Hannah, and I am a competitive figure skater. I began skating at the age of 6 in 2003. Yeah, I just aged myself immediately. And I have two special interests, anime and figure skating. So this secondary channel is all about my second special interest, which is figure skating. So if you are interested in hearing my thoughts on anime, and I do talk about an anime called Medalist, which is about figure skating on my other channel, make sure to check it out in the description. But next week is the 2026 US Figure Skating National Championships, and one of the things that I'm really interested in is just how the women's event is going to go. Now, I'm going to be very straightforward and tell you that it's not because there's a lot of options and that there's a super deep field and it's anyone's game. I think it's quite obvious who our 3 US women are going to be, but I am interested to see what kind of scores they get, how they perform under pressure, and if one of the outsiders can kind of put the pressure on maybe 1 or 2 of the 3 that are most likely to make it, because I think that could make it a little bit more interesting. So what I'm going to do is I want to talk about the 3 main frontrunners for Team USA, so that if this is like your first time watching skating or you're more of an Olympic viewer, you can get an idea of just who's going to be representing Team USA in the women's event at the Olympics. And yes, this video is going to be specific to the women because women's skating is really truly my special interest. While I watch all 4 disciplines, I definitely have the most to say about the women. So who are the main names that we should be talking about here when it comes to the Olympics? Those are Alyssa Liu, Amber Glenn, and Isabelle Levito. In my opinion, barring disaster, these 3 are going to be your Team USA for the Olympics. They were also Team USA for the World Championships last year, where they finished in 1st, 4th, and 5th, which is really freaking good. Based off of a multitude of reasons, it's really going to be difficult to break into this top 3. But first, I want to talk about the chances of each one of these women and why I think it's so obvious that they will be your 3 women heading to the Olympics, starting with Alyssa Liu. Now, if I could give anyone a 100% chance at making the Olympic team, it would be Alyssa Liu, but ice is slippery, figure skating is always shocking, anything can happen, they are human, anything can happen, truly. So I'm gonna give Alyssa Liu a 99% chance of going to the Olympics. And this is for 2 major reasons. Number 1 is Alyssa Liu's international record for this season and the second half of last season. Alyssa Liu is going into this Olympics as the world champion. By default, that makes her not only a favorite for the podium, but a favorite to win gold. Now, I'm not going to talk about whether I think or whether you should think that her win in Boston was helped by the fact that it was in Boston, but you cannot deny the fact that Alyssa Liu goes out and skates mostly clean every single time, and that has carried her through. Is she the best skater? No. Is she the best jumper? No. Is she the best spinner? No. Is she even the best performer? No. However, she is the best all around. You can watch her and you can assume she is going to skate clean. Now, I'm not going to go into extreme depth over the Olympic selection process because even I sometimes struggle to read those documents because it's a lot of jargon and a lot of numbers and a lot of different metrics. However, the main thing can be said is that every time they have a placement at an event this season, and I believe last season, they score a certain amount of points that go towards their selection. And Alyssa Liu has absolutely the most points. With her status as world champion, as well as the fact that she won a silver and a gold on her regular Grand Prix and then gold at the Grand Prix final, which again is like the biggest international event leading up to the Olympics. Even if Alyssa were to have an absolutely horrible skate at nationals this week, US figure skating would be absolutely insane to not send her. Think about it this way. In 2014, there was a dramatic choice when it came to the Olympic team when Ashley Wagner was sent even though she placed 4th at nationals when only 3 go. This caused big uproar because people believed that the top 3 nationals should go to the Olympics when that's just not the case. Ashley got sent because she had a fluke bad skate at nationals while she was by far the best international skater for Team USA that season. That season, Ashley had finished second and first at her 2 Grand Prix events and then third at the Grand Prix final. But even with her 4th place finish at nationals, because she was just so much stronger than everyone else, she got sent to the team. Now, fast forward to this season, Alyssa Liu has an even better track record than Ashley Wagner with her 1st, 2nd, and 1st, as well as going into the season as the world champion. Ashley went into that season with a 5th place from Worlds. The reason I bring this up is to just give you context of why Alyssa's international record for the past season and a half-ish is going to carry her to the Olympic team. I think that the only way that she will not make the Olympic team is if she has a short program at nationals that is literally so bad that she's embarrassed to get on the ice for the free skate and doesn't do it. And that's not going to happen, because that brings me to the second reason why I think Alyssa's chances of the Olympic team are pretty much locked in, and that is, if anyone's going to skate clean at nationals, it's going to be her. The main reason that Alyssa has been so successful since she came back after retirement last season is because she goes out, she gets her job done. Does she get some under rotations here and there? Yes, it happens. But as far as falling or popping, it just doesn't happen. Add to it that it's nationals, so they're a little bit more lenient on scoring, and she's probably not going to get any under rotations because she's the reigning world champion, and very high components. I think they're really going to try and give her some really inflated scores just so that they can kind of compete with what Kaori Sakamoto got a couple weeks ago and what Adelia Petrosian got a couple of weeks ago as well, to prove that their top skater is worthy of being in the conversation for gold. Without a doubt, when I look at all of the skaters, Alyssa is the one who can handle this pressure the best. She does not care. She just is skating because she loves it. And as long as she has that mindset, she's going to be a-okay. So her chances of having a complete meltdown, that's the only way it can cause her to not make the Olympic team, are way lower. So we will see Alyssa Liu at the Olympics. The next skater who's all but guaranteed to make the Olympic team is Amber Glenn. Now, Amber is a shoo-in as well. However, there are just a couple of reasons that put her behind Alyssa Liu, starting with the fact that she finished 5th at Worlds instead of 1st. So she's not going into the season as the Olympic favorite, technically, because she did not win a medal at Worlds. And I also think that Amber has a much higher chance at having a bit of a meltdown at nationals. Amber has really come into her own over the past 2 seasons, but one thing that I think a lot of people tend to brush over is the fact that she still has at least 1 mistake per competition, and that has severely affected her ability to stay on top. Last season, she was undefeated going into nationals, and she stayed undefeated because she won nationals, but she kind of was riding on the fact that a lot of the top skaters last year were just not skating at their best at the Grand Prix. This year's been very different because everyone wants to prove that they're ready to be on that Olympic podium and that it's a very, very important season. So she kind of faltered because of that. Now, starting with the international reputation, Amber is almost identical to what Ashley Wagner had going into the 2014 nationals. A 5th place at last year's Worlds, same as Ashley's. A 1st and a 2nd on the Grand Prix series, same as Ashley's. And then 4th place at the Grand Prix final, which is 1 place down from Ashley's 3rd in 2014. Now again, I'm comparing that to Ashley Wagner from 8 years ago, simply because I want to show everyone what can happen if a skater just doesn't have the best nationals and doesn't finish in the top 3. Amber's international experience should absolutely carry her through to the Olympic team, barring disaster at nationals. However, Amber is a skater who I just don't fully trust to handle the pressure quite yet. I'm not saying that I want it to happen. I actually kind of prefer Amber over Alyssa, if I'm being completely honest, but that's just my own opinion. However, Amber just doesn't have that world title and Grand Prix final title to carry her through, so she's going to be under just a little bit more pressure because she has to somewhat prove herself. Like, if she has a complete meltdown and goes back to like 3 years ago Amber, where if she made 1 mistake, it usually led to another and another, she could be in jeopardy, especially if a skater like Brady Tennell or Sarah Everhart really steps through. She should be fine. I even was saying when Amber and Alyssa qualified for the Grand Prix final that they essentially qualified for Olympics. at that point in time too, because they just have so much more of a reputation and higher scoring elements, and they just have the best chance at being on that Olympic podium. So I don't think Amber's really in trouble of missing these Olympics. I think it's more of a matter of she doesn't have quite the international accolades to carry her through like Alyssa does. And when it comes down to it, if I'm going to place a bet and one skater has to have a bad nationals and one skater has to have a good nationals, which of course we're hoping that doesn't happen and they both have a good nationals. But if one had to have bad and one had to have good, I would place literally every single chip that I owned on Amber being the one to have the bad nationals. But I don't even want to speak that into existence. We're going to put a bet that she's going to have a great nationals and even try to defend her title, which, by the way, if she does defend her title and win here, she will be the first US woman to win 3 national titles consecutively since Michelle Kwan. So that's a fun fact. So, Amber and Alyssa Liu, they are going to make the Olympic team barring disaster. I've said that multiple times, but they are going to be representing Team USA. I can say it with utmost certainty. Things will have to happen, and I don't think they're going to happen. I think even if they both have okay skates at nationals, they're going to be fluffed up, their scores are going to be lifted up, and they're going to be just fine. Keep in mind, US nationals is not the Olympic trials. While your placement there is worth the most amount of points for Olympic selection, it is not the end-all be-all. Also keep in mind, the points that you earn from your international season and at nationals is not the end-all be-all. There is a subjective side to it. They have to deliberate. It's not like completely black and white. So there is a deliberation side of things. However, when you have so much international accolades to back you up, even if both Alyssa and Amber have like the worst nationals of their life, the Olympic Selection Committee is going to take into account everything that they've done these last 2 seasons, and they're going to send them. So let's talk about the third person that I think still has a very high chance of making the Olympics, but is just not quite at the level of Amber and Alyssa, and that is Isabelle Levito. And I'm just going to explain that the only reason she's not on the same level as Amber and Alyssa is simply because she did not qualify for the Grand Prix final this season. That's literally it. That's the only reason. Isabelle had a better finish at Worlds last year than Amber did, and she finished 4th. In fact, this is something that I think a lot of people forget about when considering Isabelle for the Olympic team. Isabelle has been to the last 3 World Championships as a senior and was at the Junior World Championships the year before. She has placed in the top 4 every single time. That is insane, and that is better than Amber's best finish of 5th. Also keep in mind that one of those finishes for Isabelle was 2nd. Honestly, the only reason she didn't qualify for the Grand Prix final was because her first event, she just got unlucky because it was so incredibly stacked. She still put up a score that at any other event would have gotten her 1st or 2nd, but because she got 4th there, because the Japanese women were just so incredible at that event, she missed out on the Grand Prix final. She was the first alternate. So she's missing a set of points that Amber and Alyssa have. However, her international scoring is so much higher than anyone else outside of Alyssa and Amber, so I don't see any real reason to think that she's not going to make it. She is also rather known for her consistency and has been very good all season, but she's not quite as consistent as Alyssa. She tends to have maybe 1 competition a season or 2 competitions a season where she has like a pretty major mistake in her competition, like a fall. Her jumping technique also, I feel like, is going to be failing her very soon, but I don't think it's failing her now, so she'll be okay. But she actually gets higher component scores internationally than Amber does, so I do think that even if she has a really horrible nationals here, which she has done before, she had a really horrible nationals in 2024 where I think she came in like 5th or 6th in the free skate. She fell twice, and she ended up 3rd overall, but still got sent to Worlds where she ended up 2nd. Isabeau is a skater who's very balletic and beautiful to watch, just shouldn't be getting super high grade of execution on her jumps. When it comes down to it, she's the only one also that I just don't think is really trying for the podium at the Olympics. While she could definitely be on it as she's been on the world podium, I think that she would only be on the Olympic podium if there was just a lot of disasters happening at the Olympics, which I don't want to see that. No one wants to see that. I want to see a bunch of clean skates. So I don't think she's really trying for the podium at the Olympics, but she absolutely absolutely can place in the top 6. So while Isabelle's chances are just objectively a little bit lower due to her just not having as good of an international season as Alyssa and Amber, I would still place all of my bets on her making the Olympic team over the other two that are the outsiders looking in. And those two are Brady Tennell and Sarah Everhart. Now starting with Brady actually was like the US skater all the way back in 2018. Yes, and actually kind of part of my own watching skating PTSD. I don't know. When she showed up in 2018, she pushed Ashley out of the mix, and that was pretty hard because Ashley Wagner, as I brought her up a lot, for the record, is my all-time favorite skater. Brady has had a tough 8 years since then. She has been going through multiple injuries, a lot of consistency issues, and just overall has had a very topsy-turvy time ever since then. She definitely is packaged better this season, and she's made a lot of improvements. I will give it to her. She's still not my favorite. Every time I watch her, I'm just yelling the entire time, please bend your ankles, please bend your ankles. She bends her knees, but it's at like the hips, so she looks very stiff, and every time she goes into jumps, I'm like, it's kind of like, it makes me nervous. It makes me very nervous because it's so stiff. But Brady has been looking pretty good this season. She's coming off of 2 fourth-place finishes on the Grand Prix circuit. She also won gold at Golden Spin, which was the same weekend as the Grand Prix final. Usually the skaters that don't qualify but are still kind of in the mix go to that event. And that was actually the event where she scored her first free skate score over 130. Now, keep in mind, Isabeau scores high 130s every time she skates. Amber scores usually over 140, and same with Alyssa. So the fact that there is such a big gap between Isabeau and Brady scoring-wise, that's definitely going to be accounted for in the subjective deliberation of the team. So even if Brady at Nationals were to just have like the skate of her life, and let's say also Amber and Isabeau have not great skates, so Brady comes in second behind Alyssa, I could still see them favoring both Isabeau and Amber over Brady just because of the scoring potential of the international events. Also keep in mind in the short program, Brady's season best is only 65, while Alyssa, Isabeau, and Amber have all scored over 70 most of their events. In fact, Amber's the only one who scored under 70, and that's because she popped her axle at the Grand Prix final. So if something crazy were to happen and Brady just shows up to Nationals perfect and is lights out and they give her really high scores, it's still an uphill battle for her. However, the only one that really needs to be watching her is Isabeau. If Isabeau were to have a really, really bad Nationals and Brady were to have a really, really good Nationals, there is the possibility that they would simply just send Brady over Isabeau due to the points that she gets at Nationals. But I do think she would have to literally win in order for that to happen. The other skater who has an outside chance is Sarah Everhart. Now, last year, Sarah was super consistent, but just a little bit on the low side for components. This year, Sarah's kind of lost some of her consistency, so unfortunately, her chances of the Olympic team are looking very, very dim. In fact, I think that she likely will not even be on the podium here, and the podium at Nationals means top 4. I think Sarah simply is a skater that's just gonna have to wait for the next Olympic quad. I think she will absolutely be a contender for the Olympics in 2030, but I don't think she's gonna make the team here, even if she were to have the Nationals of her life and win the entire thing. With her international this season being so low and losing her consistency and not having really anything the season before either, I think that she just is treading water this season. I am still very much looking forward to seeing her skate. I just don't think it's possible this year. Now keep in mind, US Nationals almost always has a surprise in store for us on the podium. I think about last year, I would say that Alyssa winning the silver was a big surprise just because she was okay on the Grand Prix leading up to Nationals. She really just exploded at the second half of the season and ended up winning Worlds. She was like 4th and 5th at her Grand Prix events last season, so she kind of just was like, hey, I'm here, and then she made herself a household name. The year before that, we had Jacqueline Lee, I think, won the free skate and ended up second. So there is a lot of potential for like some young skater to just really have the skate of their lives here and throw the Olympic team into chaos because they'll like beat one of them or two of them or something like that. But keep in mind that usually doesn't affect a ton, and it's especially not going to affect a ton this season because the minimum age to go to the Olympics is 17 instead of what it used to be, which was 15. So even if a younger skater who was like on the junior circuit, so we don't really know about them, shows up and just skates lights out and wins silver or something, they might not even be able to go to the Olympics due to age. But I'm honestly kind of hoping for something interesting to happen. In my mind, the likelihood that Alyssa, Amber, and Isabeau are the top 3 at nationals is very, very high. I don't think that any of them are going to allow for someone else to kind of like try and make their way in there. But a part of me just really hopes for one of the young skaters to just really prove themselves, because what's going to happen after this season? I don't know who's going to retire. I don't think Alyssa's going to retire. I don't think Isabeau's going to retire. I hope Amber doesn't retire, but she is like 25, so it very well could happen. So I would love to see a young skater show up and say, hey, I'm here, be ready for me when I'm old enough to go to Senior Worlds. The skater that's on my radar the most would be Amelia Nemirovsky. I think I'm saying her name correctly. Amelia is not old enough to go to the Olympics this year. However, she has some of the most beautiful jumps I have ever seen. She's only been able to manage 4th at nationals for the last 2 years at the junior level, even though she has such amazing jumping. And she's also a very good skater. She is the full package, and if she can figure out her consistency right before she goes senior, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. Absolutely. I'm really excited to see how she does. We also have Sophie Jolene von Felten, who maybe isn't the best skater, but does have quads, and they're pretty consistent. However, the thing to look out for Sophie, she, one, is too young to compete at the Olympics and Worlds, but she also is very inconsistent with everything else. She'll do like a perfect start where she'll do 2 perfect triple axels and a perfect quad sow, and then every other jump is just kind of But that being said, with her jumping arsenal, she absolutely can make a name for herself at this nationals. And if any of those top 3 women kind of let the door open a little bit with mistakes, Sophie and Amelia are my 2 unknown young skaters that I think can absolutely walk through that door and just cause chaos because they can't go to the Olympics, but it would make things super interesting. So anyway, that's what I think is going to happen at nationals. Again, I just reiterate, Amber and Alyssa booked their ticket to the Olympics when they went to the Grand Prix final. I don't know what would have to happen. Like I said, I think they would have to have like the worst short programs of their lives where they fall on every jump and then embarrassingly can't do the free skate, like just literally withdraw because they're so embarrassed, or God forbid hurt themselves. They would have to literally like not finish nationals after a horrible short program to not get named to this team. So that is what the team's gonna look like. I'll check back in after nationals. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts. I'm going to be posting a lot more skating related stuff, including maybe some vlogs of my own. I'm about to compete for the first time in 7 years next month. So that's going to be crazy. So if you want to follow along with that journey, all that's going to go on this channel. But thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you all after nationals. Bye.
Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us.